Becoming a double champ is one of the hardest achievements to unlock in the world of mixed martial arts. To pull it off, you have to clear out your own division, dodging a line of hungry contenders, take out the local kingpin, then move up to face the bigger, heavier hitters and punch the meanest one of them right in the mouth. Let's be real, that's no walk in the park. That is exactly why anyone who manages to pull it off gets a VIP ticket to the GOAT Club. Just take a look at the names in that room: Randy Couture, John Jones, Daniel Cormier, BJ Penn, Georges St. Pierre, Conor McGregor, and Alex Pereira. Every single person on that list is essentially the personification of an entire era in combat sports. These guys have a mountain of achievements and legendary wars behind them, feats that fundamentally shifted the entire industry. Meanwhile, Pereira, well, he basically just showed the world that the last stylebender only feels pain when he isn't staring into a dog's heart. And he proved that even scary, bald street thugs have feelings too. That's about it. What's up, everyone? This is Combat Cult MMA. Never back down. Today we're breaking down what Alex Pereira's championship run actually is. Who is it for? Is it the real deal, or is it just a manufactured hype train? And ultimately, who stands to gain from all this? Grab yourself something legendary from the delivery apps, sit back, and let's dive in. Few people know, and even fewer remember, but before the UFC, Alex was fighting in regional Brazilian promotions. By all accounts, he should have been steamrolling guys in the first round without breaking a sweat. He should have been, but it turns out the debt collector Poatan'S decided to settle his own tab by dropping a fight. Alex's record before entering the UFC was a measly 3-1. Is it even worth mentioning that those 4 fights were against absolute can-level opposition? Guys who couldn't even sniff a mid-tier promotion, let alone the big leagues. Alex even managed to get submitted by one of them. Talk about a glorious start for a future double champ. Can you imagine John Jones, GSP, or even Fedor Emelianenko dropping a fight to some random Joe Schmo in the middle of nowhere? Yeah, I can't either. That's the kind of opposition we're talking about. That's the resume. But despite those mediocre stats, Dana White signed this Brazilian phenom anyway, and that's when the real madness started. So, why did Dana White even need a relatively unknown, aging Brazilian kickboxer with a spotty record and questionable prospects? It's simple. The UFC literally couldn't find a new challenge for Israel Adesanya. They couldn't cook up a selling point to save their lives. Izzy had cleared out the middleweight division, lost his bid for a second belt against Jan Blachowicz, and there were 0 interesting prospects left to pair him with. Imagine the Demetrius Johnson flyweight situation, but put it through a Photoshop stretch tool. That was the middleweight division. Seeing the writing on the wall, Dana decided to squeeze every last drop of profit out of Adesanya's story. He signed Pereira, the one guy who had famously put Izzy's lights out back in their kickboxing days. Of course, the UFC's PR department conveniently forgot to mention that before that knockout, Alex was getting picked apart, and in their other fight, he won via a pretty controversial decision. But the UFC narrative machine started churning, building Poatan'S up as the ghost of the past, coming to reclaim the throne from a boring, over-dominant champion. In other words, Pereira didn't exactly earn his spot in the world's top league through the usual blood, sweat, and tears. He got a golden ticket because he happened to have a win over the current king years ago. To me, that's like dragging some old rival out of retirement just so Islam Makhachev can avenge a loss from a decade ago. It's business, sure, but is it sport? They signed the Brazilian, branded him as Adesanya's kryptonite, and then they had to make sure the image didn't crumble before the big payday. To keep the hype train rolling like Khabib in his prime, they needed wins. Let's look at who Alex actually beat to get there. First, Andreas Michailidis, a mediocre Greek fighter who went 1-3 in the UFC before getting cut. Then Bruno Silva, a solid gatekeeper, top 15 at best, whose biggest claim to fame was beating Alexander Shlemenko. After conquering these monsters, the UFC brass shamelessly catapulted Alex into the top 5. They handed him the most stylistic gimme possible, Sean Strickland, a guy with 0 wrestling who relies entirely on basic boxing and cardio, and whose biggest win at the time was Jack Hermanson. The result was predictable, a brutal first-round knockout. That set the stage for the Adesanya fight. And while Pereira did catch Izzy, let's not forget he was about 3 seconds away from being sent to Valhalla, or wherever Brazilian legends go, at the end of the first round. He was saved by the bell. If that round lasted 5 seconds longer, stone face would have been floor face. But he recovered and closed the show. "Long live the new king," they shouted. "Goodbye, boring runner." But the celebration was short-lived. The UFC rushed the rematch, where Naruto finally landed his Rasengan and put the Brazilian out cold. Thankfully, the matchmakers spared us a Moreno versus Figueiredo endless loop. Alex then packed his bags for light heavyweight, where he faced Jan Blachowicz. Calling that a fight is a stretch. Pereira mostly wandered around the octagon, spamming calf kicks and fishing for a left hook. Blachowicz lazily plodded after him, trying to wrestle. Neither guy really accomplished anything. It was a coin toss fight that went to the more marketable Pereira. Then, skipping over guys like Magomed Ankalaev and Jamahal Hill, Alex got a title shot against Jiří Procházka. Against Jiří, it was a repeat of the Blachowicz fight. Eat shots, throw calf kicks, hunt the left hook. Except this time, the hook landed. He was having a hard time with Jiří's right hand, which was repeatedly tagging him. But the Brazilian stayed composed. He caught the Czech samurai coming in. Right hook, left hook, lights out. Some say it was an early stoppage since Jiří popped right back up, but look at his body when he hit the canvas. He was limp. And when you get wobbled by a right and then meet a funeral-grade left hook on the way down, that's massive damage. So here we have a double champ whose entire elite career consists of maybe 4 top-tier opponents. Strickland? I'm still not convinced he's an all-time great. Yes, he beat Izzy, but he got that fight after beating Abus Magomedov. Who knows if he can even hold the belt or if he'll end up being another Matt Serra or Cody Garbrandt. Adesanya? Izzy was clearly on the decline by then, as evidenced by his later performance against Strickland. Plus, Alex almost got finished in the first fight and did get finished in the second with the exact same combination. Blachowicz? Don't even get me started. There's a saying, if you can't do the job, don't stress the process. I don't know about the process, but the fans' eyes certainly suffered through that clinch and kick fest. It was a stalemate that could have easily been a draw. Procházka? A total stud, but he was coming off a devastating injury and a year-long layoff. Even then, Jiří was winning that fight on the cards, peppering Alex and landing takedowns before the finish. Compare that to the other GOATs on the double champ list. Their resumes are so long you could print them on a never-ending scroll. Meanwhile, almost every major win Alex has comes with an asterisk. There's always a, yeah, but, or well, technically. Now, the Pereira superfans will say, but he's just getting started. Give him a few years and he'll build a legendary resume. Yeah, right. I would have said no way 2 years ago, but look at him now. He beat Ankalaev, even if Magomed was coming in with an injury. The guy is clearly the luckiest man in MMA history. Now he's talking about another weight class? It's wild. But let's look at the reality. Pereira is aging and he's been through the ringer. Even a broken clock is right twice a day, and even a one-trick pony can find a home for a left hook once a year. He's 36. In those 36 years, he had a massive kickboxing career where he took an incredible amount of damage before even touching MMA gloves. He's already been brutally knocked out in the UFC. That brings us to the second point. Alex is a specialist in a generalist sport. He's spent his whole life training one dimension, striking. Trying to teach him high-level grappling at this age is like trying to teach an old dog new tricks while the clock is ticking. You can't just learn wrestling in a 2-month camp when you're facing elite killers. We saw it. Adesanya, Bruno Silva, Procházka, Blachowicz, they all took him down or controlled him, and they aren't even primary wrestlers. Can you imagine what happens when he's locked in a cage with a healthy Ankalaev or if Jailton Almeida moves up? There's a reason the UFC rolled out the red carpet for him at middleweight, steering him far away from every wrestler and submission artist in the rankings. And honestly, why bother learning the smell of the canvas? He's a super mega kickboxer, right? He's supposed to just shadowbox everyone into oblivion without all that boring grappling. To an extent, it worked at middleweight. He was fast, he used his reach, and he was massive for the weight class. But moving to light heavyweight changed things. Alex slowed down. He's become wooden. His arsenal has shrunk to basically a left hook and calf kicks. The footwork is gone, the variety is gone. It's just calf kick spam and a left hook response to any danger. Plus, that massive size advantage he had at 185, it's gone. He's still a big dude, but he's not a giant among boys anymore. Technically speaking, he's starting to look like a slightly more polished version of a brawler, but again, luck is on his side. Aside from the Dagestani threat, the light heavyweight division is currently lacking any dominant, grinded-out wrestlers near the title. I wouldn't have been surprised if Ankalaev took him out the first time, but Pereira's win just scrambled all the math. To summarize, Poatan is the biggest lucky charm in the history of the sport. A guy with a 3-1 regional record walks into the world's premier organization, bypasses the entire line of contenders, gets a title shot, wins it, loses it immediately, moves up, barely scrapes by a veteran in a toss-up fight, and then loots a second belt against a guy coming off a surgery with a questionable stoppage. I'm starting to think Alex Pereira has some serious dirt on Dana White. Either that or all those stories about Dana liking ring girls are fake. And the boss actually just has a massive crush on stoic Brazilian men. What is this phenomenon? How does this keep happening? To me, the guy is just the ultimate lucky boy. He's literally speedrunning the UFC by using a no-clip glitch to walk through the walls straight to the final boss. That's how it looks from here. Call me names, debate me, give me your best shot in the comments. Pereira fans, feel free to drop a stone face emoji or a bird or whatever so we can see how many of you are actually out there. It all helps the algorithm and boosts the video. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and tell your friends. Eat well, stay sharp, and be a lucky boy like Poatan. Earn it. Until next time, this was Combat Cult MMA.